How to run and sell a group coaching program that establishes your expertise and creates results for your clients. Group coaching is when you coach a group of individuals throughout a coaching journey towards a desired outcome. But I have been a one-on-one coach from day one, and it's difficult for me to imagine how to transition from one-on-one to group coaching. How do you create a group coaching program? How do you organize the sessions? How do you price the program? And what are the first steps that I or you have to take? So I'm super excited that Sarah is here, and I'm actually super curious. What has been your journey, Sarah? Did you start off as a one-on-one coach and then transitioned into group coaching? What has been your experiences starting as a coach?
Yeah. And Robin, thank you so much for having me here. And thanks for everyone for tuning in and having this discussion, because I think this is the question that a lot of people ask themselves when they say, how can I help more people? And I'm actually going to give you not maybe even the answer that you're expecting, because I actually started out really working for another company that hired me to mostly do some group programming. I did a little bit of one on one, but I also did group programming. And I talk a lot of times about when as a certified curriculum designer, as someone who specializes just in healthcare, one of the number one things I say in my methodology is, who are you serving? And it's not just an avatar marketing conversation. It's also, is there some kind of outside organization needs? I learned that really early because I was not representing myself at first. I was a contractor for another company. And I've gone in and out of roles like that, Robin, where I've gone in and out of working in contractor positions and
Mhm.
then standing on my own, working one-on-one. And I understand what that is like and its limitations, and also working, with my own groups. And so it's a myriad of things. And for me, and I actually did back if we want to even go so far back to when I first jumped into the healthcare space. This is over 15 years ago. I ran group weight loss programs. And so I did start with groups. And like most of you, my first people to just say that I had a couple people in the class were my grandma, my mom, my aunts. Like a lot of us shared the same last name. Let's just say that in the first group.
I love how transparent you are on this. So you started out with basically your family. You had contractor positions, and now you are where you are. And I'm super curious. We talked a little bit before we actually jumped on live. You have this interesting model of both works well, one-on-one and group coaching. So I'm more curious in the journey. So how have you come up with some of the solutions you're going to share with us today?
Yeah. And I just think right now in the world that we're living in, and I think that this concept is pretty universal. I know you tap into a little bit of an international audience, I think, Robin, as well. And so I don't think it's just here in the United States where we have managed care. I think healthcare is at that critical point where we have all this information at our fingertips. And when our provider that's on Main Street, downtown, wherever we are, doesn't have the answers, we're like, well, but Google says. And so there's other information out there. And the other thing is it's really expensive. And should it be? Does it have to be? And so I really feel strongly about getting the best providers who have the best information
Mhm.
out to the people who need it, no matter where they are. So I love this planet. We just celebrated Earth Day. We're live here in April. I know people will be listening to this on the replay, but do I need to fly halfway across the world or the country or somewhere just to go see an expert anymore? When look at, like, we can jump on like this and share ideas. We need to be able to do that with healthcare. And so I do believe that a group methodology is going to have affordable healthcare to the
Mhm.
masses and get that expertise out. So that's why I feel so strongly about it.
Ooh, I absolutely love this. But one thing is we can talk here and we can share all the solutions all the time. But people watching from the outside very often have then this, oh my God, I will never be there. Oh my God. I'm curious, what were some of the mistakes that you have made along the way until you are actually here and talk about so clearly and
Yeah.
clearly about some of the solutions?
One of the biggest mistakes I see, and I see this and we're all marketers, right? We've all marketed something at some point. So it's not just in our businesses, but if anyone's ever gone on a date, right? You got to market yourself to your
Mhm.
significant other, got to market yourself to the school you applied to get into. And now we're marketing something, whatever our business is, our services, even working for other organizations just to get those stakeholders to keep their meetings with me. I had to market myself to even other departments sometimes.
Mhm.
So we really are, but we make a lot of assumptions. That's one of the things is people just say, I assume what people want. I assume that my problem is their problem. I assume, what their objections are going to be. And a lot of times it's just because you're scared. You're scared that they're going to say no. You're scared they're going to reject your ideas. If you can take the time to ask your audience exactly what they want and you build something for them specifically, and you're flexible enough to say, maybe where I thought they were coming in from, their entry point, that's a little too beginner, or it might be a little too advanced. So I talk a lot about, again, this is in my who with when I do program building, not
Mhm.
just who, like, all right, is it male or female? What's their age? How much money? No, but like, what's been their experience and what's their prerequisites to coming into that moment of working with you? Once I really unlocked that and I said, what have they done up until this point? It unlocked a whole new world because I found the perfect person at the perfect time. That it seems like all my discovery calls, all my calls that I started doing, people were like, I need this right now. Everyone started saying, I need it right now. And as opposed to other calls where they're like, maybe in the future, maybe later. So once I did that homework and I just asked people, I just asked a lot of questions and I was flexible and open minded.
Ooh, I absolutely love this, and there are already 10 things that I want to ask, and another conversation altogether around the idea of this stereotypical male 35 professional goes twice to the gym, drives a nice car, instead of actually looking at the person and how you describe it, and how I often think about this as the person on a journey. They come from a place and they want to go to a place, but this is we have to have another conversation. For everyone who's watching, let us know if you want to have this conversation on how to go much deeper into describing your perfect person.
Mm.
But from a high level perspective, thinking about group coaching, what are your top tips to actually get it right?
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you for asking this because right now, and I'm going to assume that we're coaching adults. That's what I want to make this assumption that we're having that conversation. And why I want to have that conversation is because a lot of us, when we think about how we learned, we think about how we learned as kids.
Mhm.
Like memorizing your 10 times tables, making sure that we know all the prepositions and how to structure a sentence. A lot of that was memorization.
Mhm.
So what we do is we come in and we teach adults how we had experiences learning,
Mhm.
which a
Mhm.
lot of it is, very didactic, very lecturing, and then expecting people to understand the information. Where outcome based for adults, we're not looking for just it, we're not learning for learning's sake. We're
Mhm.
learning for an outcome. We're learning for the application of it. So, one of the things that I just want to say is that when we put together a group, if there's anything you need someone to memorize, you can send that to them in a way where they can do that on their own. They can read your PDF, they could watch your video, they could, flip through your ebook or infographics. That's great. Then they have that information. And none of us, unless you're doing some kind of certification based course or something where you need to stamp some approval, they're probably not going to have to memorize that and send it back to you. So it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if they never, ever, ever remember what a fat, carb, and protein is ever again, and they always look at their phone notes. Who cares? What they need is that practical application of how to build their dinner plate every night or how to
Mhm.
shop through the grocery store. And so when you're structuring the time you're spending together, really that workshop based style works so much better with adults. Being
Mhm.
able to have them be able to, in a social setting, that's the other thing. Adults are very social learners. When
Mhm.
we think about something like, especially Robin, I'll just use the example of like when we're at the gym versus working out at home. So if you're
Mhm.
gonna go and you're gonna do a workout at home, all you have is the instructor or whatever's on the screen. Even, we've all done Zoom workouts over the past couple of years, maybe with a lot of us on the screen. But we only have what we can see. There's other clues that we're missing. Just this
Mhm.
morning, I went to work out and I noticed this one person in my class, he always brings a bag of stuff. And today I said, "What's in your bag of stuff? Like, you have things that I need." Because I want to get better. I learned things the instructor wasn't teaching me about, some of the equipment he uses. And so it's a very social atmosphere to do that
Mhm.
you're going to lose in if you're just always lecturing. So I want it to be so it's social. I want it to be so it's very applicable. And at the end of the day, we can say, can I transfer this skill into my daily life? And that's going to be the most important thing. And so we really can't even do like just hot seats or just question and answers. Like, you have to facilitate something to check in with the whole class to say, do you understand what I'm teaching you? And can you apply it to real life and problem solve with it?
Ooh, I can just from the conversation, I can already feel how communicative and high energy your group coaching classes are. And I'm actually curious for those who watch and think, I'm right now, I'm one on one, and maybe I have some troubles actually getting enough clients, or I have so many clients that I can't really work with. What are some of the benefits that group coaching has for coaches that the people you are work with have seen in their businesses?
Yeah, well, I mean, just being able to scale and affect more people is
Yeah.
really helpful. And I find with the group coaching, with the peer environment, you end up spending a lot less time because the community itself, if you set up the community the right way, the community will also take on a life of its own and end up really enriching the program if you can create that space for it. And the other thing that I, want to say too is I start a lot of people when they're saying, "Well, I'm one on one right now, and I'm really nervous." You brought this up. I'm nervous that I'm not going to get enough people into my group. No, could you structure your one-on-one in a way to maybe bonus the group coaching part to your
Mhm.
VIPs? So now we already have some
Ooh.
people in the class. I always will give out a couple spots to people in my network that I'm like, "This is good for you. You're a good friend of mine. We've definitely like reciprocity is there." I will get a couple ringers into the class too. Still to this day, I think it's really helpful to be able to make sure that you're putting the right group together and then to go ahead and sell the remaining spots. And I promise you that if you do that enough times, then eventually the testimonials and the notoriety and the environment that you create is going to become, like a rock concert. Okay, you're not going to have tens of thousands of people, but it's going to get that same anticipation of doors are opening. Wow, we better get a spot in this program because I know that there's that scarcity. It only runs a couple times a year. There's only so many spots. And it will do that if you just stick with it. So just keep going. You can do it.
Ooh, I love this, and how the the idea of combining your existing one-on-one coaching with with a new program and actually making this as a you have been a loyal customer, you have been a loyal client. Let me give you some extra. This is what a cool reframe. But I'm curious. We talk about group coaching. For you, what is actually group coaching? Because we can think from 3, 4 people to Tony Robbins style filling stadiums. So, what is group coaching for you?
Yeah, yeah, and that exactly. Anytime a group is going to get together. So sometimes it is that cohort-based style where it's going to be, a series of lectures. Sometimes too, Robin, which I'm loving doing is, if we have something that just seems like it's such a big topic, how are we going to teach all of this? And the audience that I'm going to serve might not need it all. Like maybe they just need parts. we can also break this up to a part one, part two, part three, level one, level two, level three. And you might even have different audiences in mind. So instead of trying to fit a, square peg into a round hole, let's just split that up, as the journey goes, because not everyone's going to want to go as deep as you're going to want to go. And you brought up a good point too, because I don't just teach group coaching in online capacity. I also really love a live. So, like you said, like Tony Robbins has a 3-day experience, and that is very group dynamic. I'm working with one client who this weekend has a full day, 8-hour retreat. And so we worked on what was that going to look like? What were, the workshops? What were some of the lectures? Because she had to lay down there. They're not going to read any information ahead of time or do anything on their own, which other ones might do. And I've written that into programs before, some required reading, but this is all happening in this container. And then how are we going to create that community and facilitate that and then send them on their way, but yet still say, if you need the support, we are here, and set those boundaries. Boundaries are also really important when it comes to groups, because it's going to be the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the people are going to take up 80% of your time. And so you've got to know how to manage the conversation, how to make it fair. I don't know if you've ever been in an event where all of a sudden someone like storms the stage or inappropriately asks a question. And, how do we manage that? And so these are all things we talk about in my group program.
And the person who, I just have one more question, just one more. And I've never thought about this. I have been on a couple retreats around self-compassion, and I've never thought about them as group coaching. So that's a super interesting, different perspective. Since we're talking about group coaching in business, do you teach a particular model of group coaching that works best for coaches?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and I'm just going to reiterate it, that I've said before, is that I don't believe, this is what I'll say, I don't believe that just answering questions or just hot seats or just your time is group coaching. That's basically, you're taking a transactional model and you're just saying, now I'm just going to open it up so we're all together. That isn't truly group coaching in the way that we're trying to take someone through a journey. The other thing I don't believe in, and I do believe in saying, okay, let's give some leniencies for the first time you run something, or let's give, some extra bonuses to say, this is our first group. People call it a beta, the test group, the first cohort. That's fine for that. But I don't believe that you just saying, I have some stuff already, and I'm just going to, I only have 4 modules, but let's just package that into a group program. It's half a program. You didn't actually think about it from beginning to end. You didn't think about the full transformation. You didn't think about, are there markers that they have to hit to say that they completed the promise that you're having? So I love a good repurpose. I'm all about, let's reuse stuff we already have, but you really have to think of everything as its own container. And you can't just say, well, it's half built, so I'll just charge half price. You're really doing people a disservice.
Oh, you're giving me the perfect, no, I'm missing the word, the perfect opportunity for the next question. And that is, how do you actually structure a coaching program?
Yeah. So in the structure of it, one of the biggest things you have to decide is how long it's actually going to take someone to get to where they need to go. So a lot of it comes down to time. And there's 2 factors with time. There's going to be, how much time does the participant have? So how much time is it going to take for your time together with the participant and their time on their own? So are we talking about someone who, like the retreat, this weekend, we owned them for 8 hours. So it didn't matter. Sure, we had to put some bathroom breaks. We had to put some eating breaks. Like, there's some things where they need their own time. We had to factor it in. But other than that, we know we have them locked in that room for 8 hours. Now, you do a program online and you say it's it's, we're together for maybe an hour or two online. How much time needs to be done on their own? Now, I'll give you an example of this, Robin. Again, just using nutrition, because a lot of, whether we're talking about a functional program or integrative or lifestyle, all in healthcare and health related and in that space, at some point we all teach something to do with what's actually going in our mouth, right? And so there's so much, and that could be, all right, we're going to do an hour lecture with some questions on that today. But now you go and you expect someone to, shop at the grocery store this week in a way they've never done before, cook
Mhm.
food they've never cooked before, make a recipe they've never made before. And at the end of it, they're like, you know what? This week actually took me an extra 6 hours. Like, I don't have 6 hours in my life. And if you're, targeting someone who's a busy person with a family and outside
Mhm.
interests, they might not have that time. So how do we split that up? And
Mhm.
the second thing with time is, how much time do you as an instructor have to create what you're going to put out there and then follow up and support the group? And how is it reasonable to say that you have the time to be able to do that?
Mhm.
It just, if I can give a bonus tip in here that a
Yeah,
lot
please.
of people forget, is we can have a program where we say, a lot of people will say, it takes what, 60 days to create a habit.
Mhm.
So that's great. Like, if you have 4 weeks of content and 60 days to create a habit, you can also take a whole implementation break. 3 weeks on your own to go implement, and our
Mm.
call is actually gonna be 4 weeks later as a wrap-up call. Take liberty to be able to do that. Just because you're saying it's, 4 sessions with me, they don't have to be consecutive. You can be really creative with it, and people really appreciate that and appreciate the, transparency of how long it actually takes and what's required and when they'll actually see the transformation. So that's something I love, putting those like implementation breaks into group programs.
Ooh. One thing that really stood out for me was how you. So I've talked with a couple of other um, program coaches or people that help people create programs, and they often have this business perspective, but you actually have this different perspective, and you look at what is the journey of the person and how much time do they have to invest to actually go through the program. It's not just, oh yeah, we have a weight loss rate, and then okay, we have 1 pound per week, and they want to lose 10 pounds. Da, 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 da. But you actually look at, okay, to create a weight loss rate of 1 pound per week, we have to do grocery and this and training, and suddenly we are at 6 hours, and everyone is surprised why my busy young mom isn't able to create a 1 pound per week weight loss, because there's no time, because there's this soul sucking thing now, this cute little baby with them. Talking about time, one of the biggest issues that I see in my audience is that coaches come from a background of being employees, and they think, okay, I get a certain amount of money per hour. And then they often think, okay, I'm spending 1 hour with my client, so I'm charging $100 per hour. How do you feel about this approach?
Ah, thank you. Yes. That is a great question. And that is a transactional
Mhm.
healthcare, a transactional model, where I'm basically selling spots of time. And one of the things that I love when it comes into a group program or programs in general, when you're selling something that the promise is what I'm selling, and then it's the steps you need to be able to get there. I'm going to give you something that I heard was that Serena Williams, who's like one of the top tennis players in the world, has one of her tennis coaches, she pays over $1 million a year. Now, does she pay her over $1 million a year just because, like, she's the best? I'm sure there's a lot of other coaches that could help Serena Williams, but one of the things is when you're paid that, it also is, then that's how much, like, I'm available to you. That's the other thing. I'm available. I'm outside looking at other things in your best interest. And so when you are paid what you're worth to be able to, as a coach, step back and have also that white space to be able to think about our clients, to think about what's best for them, to go and gather the information, find the information, deliver it, support them, check in on them, hold them accountable, whether it's myself or I hire a staff or I invest in technology on their behalf to be able to do that. When I'm charging not just by the hour, but I'm factoring in what was the marketing to be able to get you in so you could even find me? How did I prepare for our time together? How did I clear my head and my schedule? So you're my main focus right now. Like that's even Serena Williams wants a coach that the main focus is Serena Williams. So that's basically what you're doing. Um, you still have to create boundaries, right? It probably doesn't mean that this coach is going to come and coach Serena Williams at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, no. Like, let's be normal, reasonable human beings here and mutually respect one another. But I really believe that when you're charging for all that time and the staff that it takes, you brought up a good point too, like about how many people are in the program. So if this is, a group of 2, it could be, that's still a group, right? We got a little group here, is going to be very different than a group of 22 or 222.
Oh, yeah.
And we really need that ratio of support to learners to be a fair ratio, just like you would send your child to a classroom with 40 kids in the class and one instructor. Like, it's not a great experience, even for adults. Even if we're running an online program, it's still not a great experience.
Yeah, I remember in the beginning when you had basically all your client tabs open and then you saw basically 20, 25 tabs. And then you were still, at least I was this young, I need to be hyper productive. And then how quickly can I go through my 25 clients? And we exactly don't have this, what you talked about, this white space of I'm looking at the data that I'm getting from my client and what is it that I'm maybe not seeing by rushing through this. One thing that really stands out for me is there are a lot of small detailed things that we have to think differently in group coaching. And you have, I believe, a checklist or a guide for coaches who want to start group coaching. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, my methodology when I look at any program, I call it the who, how, wow factor. So this is going to go through, who, from, like I said, where's their journey, what other kind of organizational needs. In the guide, we're going to have all the how. There's a 4-part really for the how, and then the wow, which is collecting testimonials, making sure we're fulfilling our promise, making sure that we're making a program that is what we said it was on the sales page and in the discovery calls. I'm sure we've all been there where, we got inside and we're like, that wasn't exactly what they sold me on. And we want to really stay within integrity. And we want to make sure too that our marketing team, our sales team, if we're using someone outside of just ourselves, really understands what it is that we're doing inside the program as well. And so that wow factor is really going to help. So if you go to my website, my name, sarah.tugender.com/free gift, you'll be able to find that checklist, and that will take you through the 7 steps of what you need for every group program. And that's in my who, how, wow methodology.
Just the name who,
How.
who, how, and wow just gives you an idea of the fun and the energy that just this free gift is. And I can only highly recommend to check it out, especially the part of the marketing and the sales. If you're a relatively new coach, this is just absolute gold. And then once you're actually through this hurdle, talking about these testimonials and sharing these testimonials, if you share an amazing testimonial on social media, you have basically sold your next program. So Sarah, thank you so much for being here. One final question. You talked about your big goal of making healthcare more affordable, what is the one thing that you would recommend all viewers to do differently so we can have affordable healthcare for everyone?
Thank you. Yeah. Get really clear on what you do that's different and just highlight that and share that. And don't be afraid to make that your big focus because really what you're going to put out is what you're going to attract back. And when we try to be, like the dealer in the alley that has the overcoat that's like, what do you want? What do you want over here? What do you want over here? What's it? Thank you. You have the bigger screen. It seems like, yeah. And when we do that, a confused mind never buys.
Yeah.
And you have something so special that people, that transformations in the transaction. So don't be afraid to put it out there. I do this for you, and this is how we can get started. Play a bigger game because the world really needs you.
Awesome. I love this tip. For everyone who's watching, thank you so much for taking the time. Sarah, thank you so much. All the links, everything is in the description. Also, make sure that you check out Sarah on Instagram. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye.